Hello! Welcome to a very special virtual Spurs show with PSL Technology for Spurs season ticket holders, Patreon members, and for many of you who've gone out and bought a ticket for tonight. Thank you so much. This is incredible. Tonight we've been transported to an old saloon bar in N17 to look back at happier times for us Spurs fans when we routinely scored 4 goals a match but wouldn't concede 5 in the same game, when winning trophies was a given, not a dream, and thankfully when our guest here missed a goal, he wasn't castigated to leave the club and play for the Woolwich down the road by Barney 1882 on Twitter. Incredibly tonight, your eyes do deceive you. We haven't broken lockdown rules to be sat together. In reality, as I say this, I'm currently in the Turks and Caicos Islands with some Victoria's Secret models. Theo Delaney is not next to me. He's in Dubai on a photo shoot with Towie and Instagram stars. And our guest tonight is in reality tucked up in bed in his 15-room chateau in the south of France. The technology tonight is fresh, is groundbreaking, but unlike Gareth Bale, shouldn't cry off with a mystery muscle injury any second now. Thank you for joining us tonight from around the world, and in doing so, helping the wonderful charity, the Tottenham Tribute Trust, in the process. Tonight we can all mercifully take a break from chatting about the current team to talk to a man who's part of the very fabric of our wonderful club, a man whose goals will mean so much to so many of you watching and gave us all such wonderful memories, a man who scored winning goals in major cup finals, and this year we celebrate the 50th anniversary of his first trophy with us, the 1971 League Cup final win when he scored both goals. But first, let's welcome my Spurs Show co-host, a man whose positivity, despite being severely tested to the limit this season, still shines, Theo Delaney.
Good evening, everyone, and greetings from Dubai.
And finally, a man you're all here to see, one of the greatest centre forwards ever to wear the lily white shirt, 367 appearances for Spurs, an incredible 174 goals. Martin Chivers is here.
Hi, all Spurs fans.
Lovely. Wonderful. How about that? Thank you so much, Martin, for joining us. I hope everyone is enjoying the extraordinary technical wizardry here tonight. Here we are in a pub in N17. It's incredible, isn't it? You probably know most of the pubs in N17 because the players like to drink after the game, didn't they?
Yeah, they've all changed now, though, Mike.
Yeah. What was the pub of choice then? Was it the one right next to the ground?
I think that was Gilly's choice. It was the closest. I think they were in there before the final whistle at times.
Wouldn't see it now, though, would you? Can you imagine that, Theo? Wandering back to your car and there's Hugo Lloris already in there having a swift half.
Bit of a shocker. That would be a shocker. Mind you, the other night I thought he might have had a couple before he went on. No, let's not get into that.
Go on. I was saying, tonight we're going to talk to Martin about his wonderful career at Spurs. We've got some great clips to show. Hopefully Martin will remember some of them. Maybe some will have no memory whatsoever of scoring. Who knows? But score them he certainly did. Martin, going back to sort of 1967-68, when you joined the team at the fresh age of 22, you went into the dressing room. There was Gilzine, Dave Mackay, Kinnear, Knowles, Cliff Jones, Venables, Mullery, and of course Jimmy Greaves. Now, Jimmy, of course, people might not know this, had a big hand in getting you to Tottenham in the first place, didn't he?
Yes, he certainly did. He was the one that recommended me to join Tottenham. We were playing in a league, the English League, against the Irish League in Dublin. I got selected to play with Jimmy up front, and after the game, we won well. We got a few goals between us, and after the game, he said, "Have you ever thought of moving?" I said, "Not really, because it's my home club, Southampton."
Yeah.
And he said, I said, "Why do you ask?" He said, "Well, I know for a fact that Bill Nick would be very interested in you if you ever moved, if you ever became available." well, things developed from then on, because as soon as I thought of that, there was a young lad, Mike Shannon, coming through at Southampton and putting pressure on me and playing alongside Ron Davies. And I thought if there was ever a move to a great club like Tottenham, I'd snap their hands off. And things developed, the phone calls went, and I had to write in for a transfer, and it all happened for a record fee, but that was immaterial. That's a week's wages now.
So as they said, he got into your head then. When he mentioned it, did your head go? Did the form go a bit at Southampton, or did you still keep scoring after he?
I was pleased he mentioned it after the game, not before the game. But it was completely out of the blue, and I know that you read things in the newspaper that certain clubs are after certain players, and it suddenly happened on that trip that I became very interested in making a move to a great club like Tottenham. If it was true, I was going to snap their hand off.
Wow, that's amazing. And then the debut away to Sheffield Wednesday. Not only did you score on your debut for Tottenham, it was our first win against Sheffield Wednesday in 31 years. But you hadn't even trained with the team, and despite, as you mentioned there, the transfer fee was a big one, £125,000. You weren't allowed to even begin. You couldn't even wear a new kit. You were sort of thrown an old one. Is that right?
Well, I thought it was an old one. They threw me a bundle, like wrapped up. We think it's like wrapping up the swimming costume in a towel, and it was thrown to me across the dressing room. And I opened it up and found a couple of socks, one with a hole in, a crumpled up white shirt with like the road map of Great Britain. And I thought, well, we're going training first. And they said, no, that's your match kit. I thought, oh, even at Southampton, we had the shirt ironed out for you and it was pressed. And I started to put this shirt on, this lovely white shirt, and I was pulling at the sleeves, thinking, is this meant to be a long sleeve shirt or a short sleeve shirt? And Pat Jennings caught my eye across the dressing room and he turned to Bill Nicholson and said, Bill, I think Chiv's got a problem with his shirt. Well, Bill, he was quite dour in the dressing room. And he said, don't worry, son. He said, I'll get you a decent shirt when you prove to me I've done the right thing in buying you for a record fee. I thought, there's not a lot of humour over there.
Unbelievable. What a great story. Well, you did prove him. You scored on your debut. In the second game, we beat the Arsenal 1-0. And then we got United in the FA Cup when you scored twice. Brilliant start for anyone. And we've got a clip here now. This is from Pate News. I apologise. There's no sound with this old clip. But here is some rare footage of Martin in a 2-2 draw in the FA Cup, I think it was, Old Trafford. Do you remember any of this footage? Here we go now. You can talk over this because there's no sound.
I haven't seen this footage before.
Wow.
I know it's for goals, but I've never seen the footage.
Wow.
Okay. Well, clearly, I think they take the lead here. Oh no, there's Jennings. The big Jerry. Is this it here? Boom. There we are. Yes. On a sixpence. Turn and shot. Lovely.
Get in.
Look at that. There's the away support. Looks like Best.
George Best.
Look, there we are.
Bobby Charlton was playing. All of them. Dennis Law was out there, I think.
Yeah. Oh, this is a wonderful break. Oh, they have a bit of a cut there. Well, they are. That's save.
Off the line.
That was a good. Could have had a hat trick.
What year was this, Mike?
Pate News for you. You never know what's going on.
1968.
68.
Yeah, there's extraordinary editing, but there we go. Oh, that's a free kick. Has that got in? No. That looked like Charlton, didn't it? I think from that cut. So we're 2-1 down, I think.
We were 2-1 down with a couple of minutes to go.
Yeah. Should see one more goal here, I think.
There's one more goal. Yeah, we need to see the. Oh, there it is.
Made that bigger? We missed that one there. I can't quite see it. But there we go. There we are. Anyway, that was some rare footage.
The last goal was in the last minute, and it was a corner from Cliffy Jones. Put the corner over. I headed it in, but they were still claiming for a foul on someone, and saying it shouldn't have been allowed. So the linesman was flagging, and the referee went across to him, and it wasn't for any offence at all. And Dave Mackay followed the referee over there to argue that it was a goal, and I think Dave got the better of him. It was pronounced a goal, but they were complaining about something, either offside before the corner was given.
It's incredible that you have that detailed memory. And because, of course, you played so many games, but was that a particularly memorable game because of those great players being on the pitch and because of that huge crowd in that amazing stadium? Or do you generally have that kind of memory of games that you scored in?
I have a very good memory of 50 years ago, but I don't have it for last week. But
I know what you mean.
All the goals, I remember so many of the goals, especially the big ones like that. That was early on and against the great Man United team. And certainly there's not many that I haven't remembered.
So it must be pretty extraordinary seeing that footage for the first time. I mean, did it take you back?
I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that footage before. Never.
Wow. Well, there you are. I hope there's a few more like that we might surprise you with. What was quite sad, though, you started so well that season. Then you had a few niggly injuries. And then you had the big one, the really, really awful injury that kept you out for nearly a year. And, well, you thought you might never play again. Can you just tell the viewers who might not know the kind of story behind that awful injury?
Mike, I never thought I would. I thought I would always play again. But I think the specialist and the Bill Nicholson had doubts about it because it was such a serious injury. I had a pain in my leg in pre-season after I'd been there for 6 months, and every time I put my left foot down to drive the ball with the right, I had a terrific pain just below my kneecap, and they sent me to see a specialist at Stanmore, Royal National Orthopaedic, and the specialist put a steroid into just below my kneecap. And it took the pain away for about 3 weeks. And then I started complaining about it again. Not a wimp, it was a serious pain. And they sent me to see him again. And he promptly put the similar injection in the same place. I think we know these days now that it's taboo to put it into any tendon. So while I'm playing against Nottingham Forest at Tottenham in one game just after, I laid a ball off to one of my players, and I collapsed in a heap on the football field. And I looked down and I saw a hole where my knee should have been. Man. I found my kneecap up as if you had a pocket. It was right up the top of my thigh. And I thought, this is strange. And I straightened my leg slowly, and I helped the kneecap back down to where it should be. And then eventually Cecil Poynton got onto the football field. It took him about 2 minutes. He told us never to get injured on the far side of the field. So, he eventually got onto me, and first of all, Jimmy Greaves came up to me. We were playing together, and he said, "Come on, big fella, up you get." I said, "Jim, my knee's gone. I can't get up." He said, he used the F word. He said, "Fuck off, Chip. Your knee can't go." I said, "Of course, it's gone, Jim. Don't tell me it's not gone." Cecil got there, and the first thing he asked me to do, with the players looking on, was to bend my leg. And I said, "I can't, Cecil." He said, "Bend it very slowly." So I started to bend my leg up from a straight leg on the ground and pulled my knee up a bit. And as I went to bend my leg, the kneecap started riding up my thigh again. he said, "That's enough." And he waved the St John's Ambulance Brigade onto the field. They came on with the canvas and the two poles that they carry people off on in those days. No trolleys or anything. And as we're getting towards, like wheeling me off towards, the steps that went down from the ground, they went down to the dressing room. And as we got to the top of the stairs, the old Johnny in the front, the old boy who must have been in charge, he said, "Excuse me, Mr. Chivers, do you mind hopping off? Because you're too heavy for us to get you down the steps." So I thought, yeah, sure, I'll hop off. I got off on my right leg. The left was gone. I hopped down on my right leg, got back on the stretcher, and got whisked off to Royal National Orthopaedic Hospital with a flying squad. They had that arranged at Tottenham, and that was my very, very big injury. I took a long time to get over that.
When you say with the flying squad, was that you mean there was a police escort to rush you there quickly?
Yes, they had it all lined on. I was lucky that they had the flying squad. They have that ready to take injured players away, as if they knew someone was going to get injured. We were there in 15 minutes.
But that's the happy ending, because before that, the treatment wasn't exactly brilliant. I mean, I love the idea that it took them ages to come. Then he's telling you to bend your leg. Then Jimmy Greaves to say, "Fuck, Jim, it's not. You haven't done it." And then they said, "Can you get? Sorry, Mr. Jimmy, do you mind getting up? We can't get you down." At that point, you're thinking, "My God, how did your leg and your knee survive this catalogue of terrible treatment?" And then at least they had the flying squad saved it, actually, getting you there that quickly. Otherwise, it might have been the end for the knee.
Well, they got me there very quickly, Theo. They got me there in that time, but I got all prepared for the operation. But the reason there was a delay because I couldn't be put under anaesthetic because I'd had a cup of tea at half time.
Oh, no.
So they had to wait till 8:30 or 8 o'clock around that time to do the operation.
Cup of weak tea.
It was
unbelievable
operation.
Oh,
wow.
God.
Unbelievable.
I mean, there's a theme here, isn't there? Because when you tell that story, it sounds like a horror story. And you must have been, presumably, you were in some degree of agony throughout that, weren't you?
No, that was the surprising thing, Theo. The surprise was that there was no pain at all on the football field or even coming off. It only started to ache about 7 o'clock in the evening. But there was no tremendous pain. They say if you get shock, you can override pain. There was nothing. But
so that 7 o'clock in the evening must have been when the tea was wearing off. I can only assume.
Yeah.
But there's a theme.
That's right. They had to wait that time so that I could go under anaesthetic.
That was obviously. I mean, I've never heard of that in the modern day. But there's a theme with players that we talk to, because that sounded like not the best care and attention for a very serious injury. And even later, like 20 odd years later, we heard some horror stories with Darren Anderton and his injuries and poor treatment. And now we've got to a stage where players diagnose themselves. You hear about Gareth Bale this week saying, I don't feel quite right. I don't think I'll train, but I definitely don't feel like I'm going to play. Or, and Ndombele comes up. Mourinho says, he came up and said he didn't feel right. He said, I don't think I'm going to carry on now. And of course, the contrast is amazing, isn't it? But I mean, I suppose it's to do with what they now call player power.
Yeah. You can imagine what Bill Nicholson would have said to players if they had said that.
Well, I mean,
get on with the game.
It's funny you mentioned Bill, because let's ask you this now. You made your comeback in the 69-70 season after what you've been through. Unbelievable. But this is kind of really when your fractious relationship with Bill came in, from around this time, because he wanted more anger from you. I don't know what it was, but certainly was on your back. And there's the story. Was it around this time he got England and Pearce to duff you up a bit in training? He wanted to see you retaliate. Was it this period?
It was that period. I played the following season. I started with Jimmy. I was I just couldn't find the right form. And Bill tried a few different things to G me up. You've got to remember, I came in after the great Bobby Smith. And because I had the stature of a player like him, Bill expected me to put my weight about and put myself about and hit people. And it wasn't my game. I'm fairly timid as a footballer. I tend to always go for the ball. I don't try and hurt anyone or knock them about. But I was strong, but I couldn't get my form back. I couldn't get it. And Bill tried a few things to G me up. One day he ordered. I found this out afterwards from the players, but he ordered Mike England, big centre half, and Pete Collins, another big one, to rough me up in a practice match at Cheshunt, where the training ground was. And they were kicking lumps out of me for the first 45 minutes. And in the second half, I retaliated and took Mike's legs away, only to be told off by Bill. He looked up and said, "What are you doing? You could have broken his legs." I said, "What have they been doing to me, Bill, for the first half, for 45 minutes?" Anyway, the whistle went and we went to the dressing rooms. He'd had enough then. That didn't work. Another time, he bought me a cup on the Friday before a game. He told me I wasn't playing on the Saturday, and he bought me a couple of tickets to go and watch Jeff Hurst at West Ham. And he told me to go there and watch him, how he played and got the ball off of Bobby Moore from the back, how Jeff held the line. And to be honest, I look back at that and I think that was a great idea. But don't sacrifice a match day for it. Let me go and watch him when we don't have a game and I can see him. But that's two things that he tried. And my luck changed in a very big game at Tottenham.
What was that? Which game was that?
Which game was that? Tell us what.
It was a game against Stoke. It was the following season. I'd gone through nightmares with that season after the injury, and the following season we had a home game against Stoke City, and I was up against Dennis Smith, a tough, bustling centre half, and the great Gordon Banks in goal, and we got a couple of goals early on. Alan Gilsine scored the first one, and then I had a big tussle in the first half against Dennis Smith, knocked him off the ball right nearby. Bill Nicholson was sat in the dugout, and then marched forward towards the Paxton Road end, and I was on a diagonal, and I noticed Gordon Banks was coming out from the goal, and I bent the ball right round him, about 25, 30 yards out, and it went into the side netting of the goal. And the place erupted. The crowd erupted. And from that day, I can honestly say I won the Spurs fans over, who had been so faithful and so patient to wait for me to suddenly find some form. And from that day on, I can honestly say that I was the player I became. That's when I became a decent player, a good player.
Well, anyone who's watching this now remembers this game. I know there's a way you can email in questions and stuff. Let us know if any of you there remember that particular game. But going back the season before, that 69-70 season when you came back, from my understanding was one player came in who you just clicked with, had a sixth sense when he was going to play the ball in, knew you were going to make the run, and that was the great and late Martin Peters. How did Martin Peters help your game at that time?
Well, incredibly, because I obviously watched the World Cup and the England games, and I saw how Jeff Hurst was latching on to the balls from Martin Peters. Free kicks, normal play, crosses from the right-hand side mainly. And Martin was he was another facet of my return to playing very, very well. He was fantastic. We got telepathic. We talk about this with players, and certain players can work a partnership. I had a good understanding with Alan Gilsine, But the main one was with Martin Peters, because I knew where Martin was going to play the ball, and Martin knew where I was going to go, and I was ready. I latched onto so many free kicks from Martin Peters. It must have been some ratio of my goals.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned that sort of 70, 71 season. We've got some goals here. I mean, it'll be remembered, and we'll talk about in a minute, the League Cup win. 33 goals in all competitions that season. We're going to look at a few now, just so for you at home. We've got a clip from Wolves away, from Molineux. We won 3-0. And then a clip, we find out, we've got them tomorrow. Man City, you scored one and Gilly scored one. Let's have a look at those goals now.
The Spurs nearly conceded a goal out of nothing. Mullery, Chivers, and Chivers, a lot of power, he scored! Chivers came through with an awful lot of power then. A lucky rebound, but he scored after 13 minutes. The lucky rebound was really a very weak tackle by Bailey. Watch as Mullery slips the ball to Chivers. As Bailey comes in to tackle Chivers, he goes in very weakly. The ball just ricochets off his right foot, and Chivers, showing a great deal of strength, hits that between two defenders into the net.
Chivers trying to get away from Heslop. And Mullery going hard in on Alan Oakes. There certainly seems to be a bit of feeling between Oakes and Mullery, and here's Perriman. Chivers! Chivers! Oh, there it is! Martin Chivers! Colin Bell. Towers. Oh, and now Gilzine in a bit of space, and Chivers also. Gilzine! There it is, number 2 by Gilzine! And that should make it safe for Spurs. Mullery delighted.
You mentioned just before the clips Alan Gilzine, who at that stage was your main strike partner. We were so blessed and lucky to have him on the Spurs Show a few years back, and obviously he's another Tottenham legend that recently has passed away. What was he like on and off the pitch? He was quite a character, wasn't he?
He was an incredible character, Gilly, but he was just so skillful. He was the fittest. If I told you he was the fittest player in the squad, you'd be surprised, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
Gilly lived hard. There's no doubt. There's no mystery about it. Gilly liked to drink, and he liked to live well and enjoy himself. But one morning he came in and there was some running round. We used to run round the track at Tottenham 10 laps. I could never compete with any of the really fit boys because I was the fastest, but I wasn't the engine room of the team. And Alan Gilzine ran everybody into the ground. And he could do that after a heavy night, the night before. He was just so incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing. Lovely.
We've woken him up once in the car park. We woke him up once in the car park. He was still hungover. But he came in and nobody would know any different. He was fantastic. It was just so super fit. There was not an ounce of fat on him.
Yeah.
He was slim, strong, and apart from everything else, he was great in the dressing room. He was wonderful. He wasn't frightened of any team that we were going to play against. He was ultra confident. He said, "We'll sort these out today, boys." And just incredible confidence in the man himself. And lovely to have him in the dressing room because he lifted the sort of gloom. Some players, like myself, certainly, were concentrating on getting the right studs in your boots and doing your laces up and making sure you got strappings on, everything. Alan could get dressed in 40 minutes before a game. He would be laid back and confident, just so confident.
Actually,
We've
we've
got
had
some
some.
more clips here from that season. A couple of goals against Burnley. I think one of them might have been a goal of the season, and then a game we'll talk about afterwards. Huge game, a win at Ellen Road. You scored twice, and then we've got another clip with a 2-1 win against Everton. Let's look at those clips now. Then maybe after the clips, you might remember some from moments. Let's have a look at them now.
I couldn't even see the ball.
Chivers 1-0. Pierce. Chivers. It's Peters. Pierce, number 11, to Mallory. England. Gilzee. Oh, good flick. Pierce. Mallory. Peters, good football by Tottenham. They're being given time, they're taking it. Oh, Perryman. It's Pierce. Perryman! Brilliant!
Back in the league, top of the table Leeds face Tottenham and the free-scoring Martin Chivers.
Jimmy Davis come back on the field, Tottenham back to 11 players. Mallory to Chivers, he got a good chance! And he scored! What a start for Tottenham! Again, Jack Charlton coming up. Comes to Lorimer! Madeley! Great stop! Off the crossbar! And a goal by Clark! Alan Clark! Chivers. Got that left knee well bandaged, Chivers. Gilzane, Chivers! He's got a bit of space on the left leg! And it's there! A goal out of nothing by Martin Chivers. Royal going for this one and getting up well. Newton going in, ball. Oh, a magnificent save. What a great save by Jennings. Ball looks absolutely amazed by it, as well he might. Fabulous save by Jennings. Oh, and Gilzina passed back to very nearly found husband. Elbows, or rather not so much elbows, but Kenyon pushing down on Chivers as they went for that one. Spurs free kick from an interesting position, almost central, a little right of central, some 10 yards outside the area. Peters taking it quickly, Chivers going in! Oh, and a goal by Chivers! Superbly taken by the Spurs! Well done for Peters, and Chivers really on it very quickly. So much of the credit going to Martin Peters for taking that free kick so quickly, as he must have done so often in his West Ham days for Hurst. And this time, instead of Hurst, it was Chivers who was there.
Lovely. Do you, any memories of those? Any of those games,
Thank you.
Martin?
No, thank you very much for that. Those clips, I've not seen those before. I've seen some of them, but the one against Leeds, I must say, I think I was the only player that went in there half in the first half, and then second half I got a couple of goals. But it was just, they'd gone so many games without losing. That was the season they set a record of about 35 games without losing. And for us to go up there and win 2-1, we didn't have that many chances at their goal. It was like stealing the crown jewels. And after the game, we were sheepish. We seemed to creep onto the coach afterwards and get away quickly, because
We've all done that.
we couldn't believe what we'd done.
We've all got out that ground very quickly in the past. I can vouch for that. Oh, that's good. I'm really glad you never seen some of those clips. That's lovely.
Many years after, I spoke with Norman Hunter, God bless him, and he said, "You don't know what panic you used to set into us when we played against you." He said, "Don Revy's team talk was just about stopping you." And I was so flattered about that. It was incredible. I thought you could stop one player, surely. But he got really uptight that I was scoring goals, because I did score other goals against Leeds. But that day I must have upset him badly.
I mean, that was the season that we started hearing the Chivers for England chants from the Spurs fans. When did you get wind of the first call-up? How did it come about? And then tell us about your debut. And then after that, we've got a couple of some of your early England goals to show you. What was your memory of getting that first call-up?
Well, it was after the game, and you showed the goal just now. It was the goal
really?
that I headed from Martin Peters' free kick. It was a quickly taken free kick. I got that yard on the defender, and headed well. It looped into the goal. And after the game, we won the game 2-1. And after the game, Bill Nicholson said to me, "There's somebody up in the boardroom would like to have a word with you." And I thought, well, you better tell me where the boardroom is, Bill, because I've never been up there. And he directed me, and I walked in there, and there in front of me was Alf Ramsey. Now, I knew Alf because I played under 23 internationals, and he'd been there on many occasions. And that's where he announced to me that he wanted me to go to Malta for my first game.
Right.
And that was my debut in Malta, where we won 1-0.
Amazing. Well, we don't have that Malta one. We've got now your home debut against Greece. We've got that footage, and then you mentioned Malta. We've got some very grainy footage of your second goal against Malta in a 5-0 win, and then the third clip everyone's going to see at home. Everyone would have seen this. That extraordinary May Day in '71 against Scotland, where you scored twice, had a goal disallowed, a wonderful assist when we dismantled the Scots. Let's look at those clips now.
Dedesh again. Poitash. But Poitash has got problems with Peters, and Peters winning it. First now to Lee. Peters. Oh, and there's Chivers. The strength of Chivers gave him the chance, and Chivers took it. Sheer strength of determination. And Chivers, who put 2 into that goal for Spurs, now puts 1 into that goal for England to put them into the league. Performance so far. Lee begging for the ball on the left touchline. Here's Lee.
Peters. Picked out there for 4-0.
Nice Davy Robb. All shaken off that ball by Lee. And Brogan now putting it for Chivers to hammer it. And there it is! Martin Chivers! A mistake in that Scottish defence by 2 players. Robb in the first place and by Brogan in the second. And Chivers making no mistake with the chance that came his way.
Well, in fact, it was Francis Lee here who won that. He doesn't fancy that tackle and keeps out. But in the end, he gets the break. And Martin Chivers in that position, look where the shot's from, and look at the accuracy and power. That's why Chivers is in the class that he is.
Oh, Chivers are going on this one. There was a deflection which wasn't very lucky. And there it is, Martin Chivers, another one. With Clark absolutely stranded the goalkeeper. And that's his fury. And that's again the English delight.
It shows the pace of Martin Peters. You see how much he has to make up there. Martin Chivers, there he is. Look at him racing for it. Goalkeeper slightly out of his goal, and it was just the space he wanted to get it there.
Lovely. There you are. Do you remember? You obviously must remember the Scotland goals there. Have you seen those other ones for a while?
That one That one was very special, the England-Scotland game. That was my first international at home. And to score 2 goals and help with the assist, the goal that Martin Peters got, it was a dream debut at Wembley. Fantastic. But the one thing I'd like to just mention, Mike and Theo, how many times have you seen me score a goal with that left foot? And that was my injured one. Yeah. That was my injured leg.
Yeah.
All that time.
Yeah. Exactly.
I can't believe how many goals I scored with my left foot.
Yeah.
But you look like the complete centre forward at that stage. You come back from this terrible trauma. You know, it's amazing to think that just a few short years before you were worried that you were going to lose your place at Southampton. Mickey Shannon's coming through, and there you are, England's best centre forward, scoring goals of all different kinds as well. Headers, pace, both feet. You know, sometimes deft little lobs, sometimes power. And of course, at that stage, I'm 5 years of age, 1971, and you're my favourite player. Like every young Tottenham, we can't believe it. We've got the England centre forward. He's the best centre forward in the land. He plays for us. So you were my favourite player. And then my other, after that, it was Peters and Gilzean. And my first game at White Hart Lane was in September 1971. And you scored. And it was against Crystal Palace. We won 3-0. I don't know if you remember that. September 71.
The home game.
It was Martin Peters scored a penalty, I think, and Mullery got the
coming up, Theo. Theo, I've got your first game, Theo, coming up in a minute. Is that when you got the Chivers shirt? And your mum got you the wrong one, Theo?
My mum. Well, I've told Martin this before, but my mum, probably about my 6th birthday, I asked for a Tottenham shirt, and in those days there weren't proper replica shirts like they are now. What you had to do is you had to buy a shirt very much like the one you've got on, Mike. You had to buy a white long sleeve T-shirt and a badge to sew on and a number to sew on. So my dad went to the sports shop in Chiswick Road, bought the 3 elements, gave it to me mum. Then he went off. He was a hippie, probably went off to smoke dope with someone somewhere, and just said to me, mum, just sew them on and we'll give it to him on his birthday in the morning. So she sews it on. I opened the present. I'm so excited because I specifically asked for a Martin Chivers shirt. She's sewn it on upside down, hasn't she? To number 6. The number 6, how was she to know? She knew nothing about football. And I put a brave face on it because I actually felt sorry for her. And I had to ask my dad, who plays number 6? And he said, I think it's Phil Beale. So it's Phil Beale. I was going around as a... obviously, I've met Phil Beale now a few times, and he's a lovely man. He was a very good footballer, but I must admit, I was a little bit disappointed. I wanted a Martin Chivers shirt. But I tell you what I did get when I went to that game, the Crystal Palace game, I got a rosette. This is another one of those things. You just don't see rosettes at all now, of course. It was a lovely big rosette. My uncle took me to my first game. Uncle Bonkers, as he's now known. And it was a big rosette. It was that size, white kind of satin frills, you know, about 3 or 4 layers of them. And then 2,
Staple.
You know, the satin coming down. And right in the middle of it, a black and white shot of Martin Chivers in the shirt.
Lovely.
That was my rosette, and I kept that for years. I mean, I love that.
Wow. That's beautiful. Well, look, let's look at, we talk about iconic games at the top of the show. Here's certainly, we mentioned at the top, 50th anniversary of that first League Cup win. Ironically, 50 years on, we're in the final again against Manchester City. Probably a marginally better team than the team we faced 50 years ago. Aston Villa, the then old 3rd division. Martin scored twice. Let's look at that second goal now.
And now they are stopping and knocking, and Spurs are attacking much quicker as Chivers now. Good control by Chivers. And he's done it again! Martin Chivers! Oh, what a goal by Chivers! Oh, what a tremendous goal! All the control and the cheek and the finishing by Martin Chivers, 2-0. Goal that had the lot. Chivers, who only a year ago the Spurs crowd couldn't get off his back. He couldn't recover from a bad knee injury, and they were onto him the whole time. His comeback has been one of the great stories of the season, Martin Chivers, to an England cap And now 2 goals in a Wembley final.
Wonderful. Talk us through, Martin, the emotion of winning your first major final, and you're a man of the match. What was that? Trying to explain to people like us who've never, ever, never will experience that. What's it like to be part of that?
Well, first of all, I was thrilled to be on Wembley. That was my first appearance on the Wembley turf. I hadn't played there before, but unfortunately, Wembley wasn't quite the Wembley as we used to know in the olden days. If you remember the 1970 Cup final between Leeds and Chelsea, it was a quagmire, wasn't it? And it followed on. They hadn't repaired it completely the following season. You remember they had the Horse of the Year show on at Wembley. Can you believe that? Yeah. And it made all the difference. It just made it a quagmire. Bad choice. And it wasn't perfect, but it was nice. It was just thrilling to go out in front of 100,000 fans and play a cup final. That's your first dream. The second dream is that you're lucky enough to get a gift chance for your first goal and give you all the confidence in the world to carry on and score another one. It was just absolutely dreamland for a player like myself. First time at Wembley, winning the cup. We were the second best in the first half. It wasn't a good first half for us against Aston Villa. And Stevie Perriman cleared one off the line. I think it was from Latchford. But the second half, we deserved we deserved to win the game, and that gave us the impetus to go forward. Once we got that, we were able to go into Europe. We were in the UEFA Cup, and set us on our way. That game set us on our way for a lot of things. We were a great cup team, fantastic cup team. They always
say that first trophy is so important. We've got a lovely little clip here we found. You don't see this much anymore. Here's you in the Wembley dressing room bath with the cup. Let's have a look at that now.
Which, of course, takes us on nicely to Martin Chivers. And I got an instant reaction from Martin yesterday on the first goal that really got Spurs on the way to victory.
It was a good movement. I think before the goal, I thought Jimmy would have got a good shot in, as he did. And the goalkeeper, I think it hit his legs, I'm not sure. I think it hit his leg and came out, or his hand, and came out to me. And I couldn't believe my luck, because it was just me, the goal, and one defender. And then I didn't really blast it. I had to place it, but those are the ones you dread missing, but you expected to get them in. I was bound to score really.
Since the final whistle, have you thought back perhaps to a year ago when you were being barracked every week, and you obviously must have wondered about...
I just felt on top of the world. The only problem I had out there was trying to find my mother. It's impossible at Wembley, I think.
And did you find her?
No, I didn't. No, I just have to phone her up this evening. I was trying to wave to her. I hope she didn't pass out. She gets a bit worked up at the games.
Martin, thanks very much, mate.
Thank you.
Well done.
Cheers.
Isn't that lovely? It's lovely footage, and nowadays you just be texting each other and whatever. But must be quite bizarre.
Thank you, Mike.
Filmed as you're just having a bath, the cup with you. Such a great football image, that, isn't it?
Yeah, you never get that now, Mike. You wouldn't get that. Not. You wouldn't get access to the dressing room or certainly the showers. But it was wonderful. It was a wonderful day for us. In front of 100,000 people, that's what I couldn't get over. People say to me, "Did you hear the crowd? Did you hear people?" I said, "You don't hear one person. You don't hear individuals at all. It's just a din." And as you're walking out, the hardest thing was walking out 10 minutes, 15 minutes before kickoff and standing still to be presented to the royalty that was on that day. And all we wanted to do was to kick the ball about on that turf. And we're itching to get... You always see players sort of doing a small jog and rubbing their hands. All they want to do is... They're wound up so much, you want to be let loose and go and play football. but you have to get the proceedings over with.
Yeah, I mean, look, the following season, 71-72, and I think, Theo, we might have your hopefully one of your first games here. You scored an extraordinary 44 goals in all competition this season. Here's some of the early ones that season. We've got a clip here against Crystal Palace, which I'm assuming, Theo, is could have been your first game. We've then got Notts Forest, which I believe was certainly not goal of the season, certainly goal of the month then. And then we've got Everton. You seem to score a lot of goals against Everton. We've got another goal here against Everton. If we can play those now, that'd be wonderful.
Oh, and Blythe and McCormick knocking each other's out, and Chivers to tuck it away for the second one. Well, that really was a chapter of excellence in that Crystal Palace defence, with Blythe and McCormick knocking each other out, and the ball running loose for Martin Chivers.
This one came against Nottingham Forest.
Perriman. Peters and Neighbour. Peters has gone on the outside again. Beautifully played for him, and he is completely free. Chivers! Oh, a magnificent goal! Superbly created. And but the referee didn't spot him, and Spurs go away. Now Chivers onto that right foot. Oh, what a beautiful goal by Chivers! Oh, what a bad one. Chivers. Oh, and West. And a goal! Yes, it's given. No dangers. And Gordon West has only got himself to blame. What a bad clearance.
Do any of those stand out there, Martin? Do you remember any of those, all those years?
I certainly remember the Nottingham Forest goal. That was in the cup. We beat Nottingham Forest, I think 6-1, I think it was.
Yeah.
And that was shown a few times, that diving header. But it was a good move from right across the pitch. Jimmy Neighbour and Martin Peters overlapped, and I know exactly what Martin's going to do. That was where we linked up so well.
Absolutely. Let's talk about Europe now. We won the League Cup, as everyone knows, at home. That brought us into the UEFA Cup. Some tough times we had there. We had 2 trips to Romania. There was a tough game in France. We then faced the mighty AC Milan in the 2-leg semi-finals. And then onto the Wolves UEFA Cup finals, 2 legs. Let's look at the 2 famous, probably your most 2 famous and favourite Tottenham goals, certainly by a lot of supporters. And then we can talk a bit about your memories. We never tire of seeing these 2 goals.
Chivers! Superbly taken. Chivers picked the ball cleanly. A kick taken by England. Watch the goalkeeper start to come. He can't get there. He has to go back. Caught in no man's land. But the credit to Chivers, a brilliant header. 1-0 to Spurs. Tackling back, and Knowles covering him. Chivers. Chivers again. Gilzine spreading out square. What a shot! Pick that one out. Chivers second tonight after Spurs had been pushed back into defence, and it takes a player like Chivers to turn a situation from that into that and a Spurs lead. Parks.
It just
can't win, David.
Look at that second goal. It just bobbled and sat up. And I mean, I don't think did you score a stronger goal than that? I mean, it flew in. It was extraordinary.
No, I've never scored a goal like that, of course, but it's a memory that I will never ever forget. to catch a ball perfectly is not always the case. I felt it as soon as I hit that ball with my instep. I thought, if that's going anywhere near the goal, it's got a chance. I think if it had hit the goalkeeper, it would have taken him back in there. I've never hit the ball as hard in my life. It was, what a time to do it. A minute and a half or 2 minutes before the final whistle. And it set us on the road for being able to win the cup over 2 legs.
Yeah, the second leg was sort of tough. It was a 1-1 draw in the second leg. What did you do? Was there a big party afterwards in Tottenham? Can you remember what the celebrations were like after the game?
Yeah, it was the usual celebrations with the bottles of champagne being open, bubbly was going, we're all having a drink, and then suddenly somebody looked up and said, "Where's Bill?" And we were looking around for Bill Nicholson, and suddenly he walked in after about 15 minutes, 20 minutes. He'd been in the Wolves dressing room telling them that the best team lost on the evening. Can you imagine what we said to him? I couldn't repeat it on a live program. We said, "Well, never mind that, Bill. Take a drop of this," and we poured him a glass of champagne, which he gladly took. But to go in the other dressing room and say that they were unlucky, they were the better team on the night. That's Bill all over. That's how he is.
Yeah,
that's how he was.
Amazing. Yeah, absolutely. And then you had absolutely. You then had 72-73, another 31 goals that season. We reached the UEFA Cup semi-final. We went out to Liverpool. Another League Cup final win. Trophy-wise, that ended up being the end at Spurs. Obviously, there was the 74 defeat to Feyenoord in the UEFA Cup. A lot of us will remember that. And then, and also probably the saddest for you, I'm guessing, because it was such a big thing for the nation, was missing out in the then 1974 World Cup final. The famous game in 1973 in Poland, or infamous game. What was your recollections of that game? Because I remember Bobby Moore had been struggling. Maybe you could argue he wasn't the player that he'd been. And I think Sir Alf Ramsey changed the pre-match routine before the game. It was almost a perfect storm of everything going wrong. Can you remember your feelings around at that time and that defeat at Wembley?
Well, there were changes to the normal procedure of going to Wembley. We actually went to a hotel in Welwyn Garden City instead of going to the hotel in Hendon Hall Hotel, which was near Wembley. So that was one thing unusual. But it was just a night that we always come to the end of an interview and everything, and people say to me, "Then you had the sad time of Poland." It really was my biggest disappointment as an England player, because I know what a good team I was in. Alf Ramsey even looked up and said it was a better squad than actually the year before when they were in Mexico. It was Bobby Moore, as you say, didn't play. We had Roy McFarlane. There was an unfortunate episode with Norman Hunter where he missed the ball, and they mugged us, really. We were all over them. They counted how many chances we had of a shot at goal. We had 34 attempts at goal, and the only time we were able to score was after they scored, and that was Martin Peters with a penalty. Oh no, Alan Clark with a penalty. And they finished up. The biggest disappointment, and I still think of it to this day, the biggest disappointment was that Poland finished third in the World Cup in Munich. They beat Brazil in the third place playoff. So we would have had a wonderful chance of doing well in that competition. There were some wonderful players in our team. Colin Bell, another one who sadly departed recently. He was an incredible player. You had Peter Storey, you had Roy McFarlane, as I know. Peter Shilton was in goal. They were all fine players. Martin Peters was playing. Alan Ball, tremendous players. And to create so many chances at goal, 34 attempts at goal, you'd think we would have walked away with a victory. It was the biggest disappointment.
It was a weird
player
time when
could
you
have.
think about, because
Pardon?
I mean, a few months later, back at Tottenham, the following year, beg your pardon, 74, sorry, after the UEFA Cup defeat against Feyenoord and all the trouble, Bill started the following season. We didn't start well. He then resigned, and bizarrely, I mean, even to this day, this is still can't get over it. Of all the managers to come in, we talk about Tottenham over the years and selecting the right manager, the wrong manager. We all remember that ex-Gooner, Terry Neal came in, who you never really saw eye to eye with, did you?
No, certainly not. It was an amazing choice because we heard rumours that he was due to get the push when he was at Hull City. And I think Bill Nicholson was recommending Johnny Giles or Danny Blanchflower. And the board took it upon themselves to take on Terry Neal. He was a wonderful talker, but as you say, he was an Arsenal man. But first of all, Martin Peters departed the club because he took note of how Terry Neal was managing the team or coaching the team. And he said, I could coach better than you. He said, well, if you feel like that, you can go. So that was one way of getting away. Martin Peters was the first one. And eventually I tried it, but that didn't work. He didn't let me go. It was everybody wanted to, not so much wanted to leave. We just couldn't believe what was happening. It was the strangest choice of a manager. And we didn't have to ask to go to. Eventually, most of the team that played in the UEFA final 6 months prior to him taking over was disbanded. He got Alan Gilsing went, Joe Kinnear, Cyril Knowles, Mike England, Phil Bill. It's most of your team. Most of the team had gone.
Absolutely gutted it with the senior pros.
And you're not surprised. And it wasn't surprising, Mike, that they went down the following year.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was there was obviously you were in and out of the side. Then there was the famous bit where he brought in a hypnotist, Romark, to come in and do visualization with all the players. And he went to Terry Neal and he said, I visualized Martin will score. And he brought you back. And we've got now, again, there's no sound to this quite rare footage. Many of you at home will probably be at this game. This was the night that we played they were playing in the European Cup final the few days later, night. It was a game we had to win to stay up. And probably in the history of Tottenham Hotspur, the club, this, I believe, is one of the iconic matches. It's not talked about so much because it wasn't, it was staying up rather than winning something. But here's that incredible footage. You scored. Cyril Knowles scored twice, I believe, and Alfie Conn.
And Alfie Conn got one. Yeah.
Let's look at this very rare footage of that glory night when we managed, for a while anyway, to stay in the top flight. memories of that night? Because, I mean, you could just hear from that small clip. The crowd was electric that night. It was something else, wasn't it?
It was, Mike. If you got another half an hour, I could talk you through the build-up of this.
I'm not going anywhere. Yeah, but as long as you want.
First of all, I was with Terry Neal on the Thursday before the weekend, before the Arsenal game, which was the game before where we had to try and get a result. And I was sat with Ralph Coates, who was on the line as well. We were in our civvies. We had a collar and tie on. We weren't used at all, but we went along obviously for the trip. We were part of the squad. After the game, they lost 1-0, and after the game, Terry Neal on the coach said, "I want everybody on this coach to report at the West Lodge Hotel, Cockfosters, which is North London, Sunday evening, tomorrow evening." And as I got off the coach, I said, "You don't mean me, Terry, do you? Because last Thursday you told me I was washed up and I'm not playing. You will let me go." He said, "I said everybody." So I took him by his word. He lived just down the road from me, 100 meters or something. And he tooted the horn outside my house to make sure I followed him down to the West Lodge Hotel. We went inside, went to a room, and he introduced me to somebody he said, "I'd like you to meet somebody." And I said, "Oh, yeah." He said, "He goes by the name of Romark." I said, "Yes. What's this all about?" He said, "Well, Romark is a clairvoyant." He said he's seen Tuesday morning's headlines. I said, "You're joking, aren't you?" I said, "You believe in this?" He said, "Well, I am so far." I said, "What do Tuesday morning's headlines say?" He said, "Romark said it's going to say Chivers back with a goal." I said, "You're joking, aren't you? This is crazy." He said, "Well, you're all going to meet him later on, and he's going to introduce himself." So I said, "Well, it's up to you." I said, "I can't believe what you're doing." I went out of the room, and then the other players were gathering, because Terry Neal had got me there a quarter of an hour early, of course, and told the rest another time. And they all looked up and said, "Hello, Chiv, what are you doing here so early?" I said, "You haven't seen anything. You can't believe what I've just been in. Well, I've just met." I said, "There's a fella in there, says he's a clairvoyant." Terry Naylor looked up and said, "What's a fucking clairvoyant?" I said, he's told me he's seen Tuesday morning's headlines." He said he didn't tell you the racing results, did he? I said, "Well, you're going to meet him later on. You're going to meet him. He's going to meet everybody individually. I've been told this, but I can't believe what's going on." We had a meal, and then each one of us had to go in and see him individually. I phoned my wife up and said what was going on. She said, "Don't you go in." I said, "No, go on. He's not going to hypnotize me." So I went into the room, and he starts talking to me and he didn't wave the watch in front of me or anything like that, but he said, "I want you to go to bed tonight and think about your best goals." I said, "Yeah, I normally do that. I think about goals." And then I came out, and "Who's next?" they said. "Who's next?" "Oh, it's Ralphie." He said, "What did he ask you to do, Chiv?" I said, "You just got to tell him what your best games were and what your best goals were, Ralph." And then suddenly one of the players looked up and said, "Bloody hell, Ralph, you're going to struggle, aren't you?" It was ludicrous. It was such a bad experience. It was just beyond belief. So most of them went in one at a time. The next morning we go training on the Monday morning, and Terry Neal came over to me and he said, "You're playing tonight." I said, "He's convinced you, has he, Romark? You believed in him. He won you over." He said, "Well, you're playing." So I went out that evening to try my best, the same as always. And you can't believe what the headlines were in one or two of the papers the next day. Chivers back with a goal. I can't believe what was going on. I cannot believe that a first division manager would put a clairvoyant into that situation for the last game. Incredible. We should have kept him. Perhaps people said we should have signed Romark on. Gilly was the best one, Mike. Gilly was the best one. Alan Gilsey looked up a few weeks later and he said, did you hear that one about Romark? He said he got knocked over by a number 49 bus. He didn't see that coming. Incredible.
Yeah. We've got now, this is from the following season, which was your last season at Spurs, I believe. This is when you went on the Big Match show, and it's I think a very, very moving piece of footage. You can sort of see, now we know about you and Terry Manil, what was going on. I think this is very illuminating, this brief interview now. Let's have a look at it.
I think people who know you would say that you've never really lacked confidence, but you had a sharpness about you, I thought, yesterday that we haven't seen for quite a while. And in fact, you very nearly got on the goal mark with a beautiful goal. Tell us about this one coming up now, this header. Just after you scored, in fact, wasn't it? The confidence of Perriman.
The confidence of Stevie Perriman pushing that ball forward to an advanced Joe Kinnear on the right side there. He did play it into me. I met it well, and unfortunately it went straight at the goalkeeper.
In fact, you probably met it too well. If it had been...
Yes, I think if I miscued it slightly, there was more chance of it going in.
Yeah. I say you look sharper, you look leaner and hungrier. You've lost a bit of weight.
Yes, I've lost nearly a stone, which it may be the answer to my sluggish football last season. I certainly was coming off the field feeling rather exhausted. But being a tall player, I think 1 stone on me, extra weight, didn't show too much. So no one ever said, "Are you overweight?" I suppose I could never see it. If no one says anything and I don't feel it too obviously.
But that's a change in that people can see in your body. But has there been a change in your mind as well? Because I think people feel that the last couple of years of you at Tottenham have maybe been wasted years.
No, there's nothing wrong with my mind. It is purely physical. I'm confident enough to do well.
But have you played to your potential in the last couple of years?
No, there's been no lack of effort, but I haven't been able to do it. And perhaps this is the answer. I'm trying everything. This is one way of trying.
Do you regret not having got down to maybe a more fighting weight in the last couple of years then?
Well, I never thought of it, as I say. It's one of those things that if no one ever said, "Are you overweight?" They knew my weight at Tottenham, which was 14 stone. When you get to the age of 30, I think that the time comes when you have to think of your weight. You can't carry around 14 stone. I don't think there's many forwards at 14 stone in top-class football.
But I'm astonished. I've got the impression there's an attitude, a change in your whole attitude to the game. You seem keener about things.
I'm enjoying my football very much. I would like to relax. I am more relaxed now than I was 2 years ago. I think it's because there was so much pressure on me outside football with the England. We had that tragedy at Wembley against Poland, and I feel that I took quite a lot of criticism for it. Therefore, it was always hanging over me. I would go to other grounds, and they would all remind me that I lost the World Cup. Where in fact I think it was slightly unfair to blame it on one person.
Your personal life is a lot happier now. You've married happily to Julia. Everybody knows that now. Has that been a big influence on your football as well?
Yes, a fantastic influence. I don't think we've got enough time to talk about her and the good things that she's done for me.
What about Keith Birkinshaw now, who's joined the coaching squad at Tottenham from Newcastle? Is he getting you going a bit?
Yes, apparently he was very well liked by the players at Newcastle. No one knows the reasons why he left up there, but he was very well liked by the players, and he's certainly getting to be very well liked by our players.
What about you personally now in the future? Do you still see yourself as a man that Don Revie will look at?
One thing at a time, I think, at the moment. I would like to play a regular part in Tottenham's comeback. I really believe Tottenham can come back and will come back. And I would like to have a regular number 9 on my back each week for the first team.
And then if that happens, a regular number 9 in another white shirt?
Well, I hope so. I don't think it's beyond me, I can say that.
Martin Chivers, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Such what was your feelings watching that 46 years on? How do you feel seeing that interview again?
You know, Mike, I don't remember that interview, to be honest.
Right.
I can't remember when that was taking place. That must have been while I was at Tottenham.
Yes.
But
yes.
Keith Birkinshaw only took over. Keith Birkinshaw only took over after that, I'd left.
Yeah, he was on the coaching staff then. Terry Neal brought him in as coaching staff.
That's right.
75-76 season. But I mean, I just find it really interesting because what you told us about you and the relationship with Terry Neal and leaving you out and not wanting to play you kind of see it there, that you still want to do it. You still think you can do a job ideally for Tottenham. It's quite an interesting, quite revealing interview, I think.
Well, of course, I never wanted to leave Tottenham. Terry Neal was the one. Terry Neal phoned me up. We went at the end of that season, the '76 season. We went on a world trip. We had to go through Fiji. We went to New Zealand. We went to Australia. We played 9 games. Believe it or not, we won all 9 games. My last game was in Western Australia, where we won 4-1 and I scored a hat-trick. My very last game, that was for Tottenham, so that's a good quiz question for someone. And when I got back, I was thinking, well, perhaps it's going to be better, perhaps things will turn around. And Terry Neal came on the phone and said, I've got a club interested in you. I said, well, where's this club? He said, Switzerland. I said, is that far enough for you? I don't want to leave England. I don't want to leave England. If I'm going to move, I'm going to move somewhere in England or London. But he said, well, they're coming over tomorrow. I thought, you were joking, aren't you? They're coming over. He said, they want to meet you. So I said to my wife, who was mentioned just there, Julia, I said, Terry Neal's phoned me and said that there's a club interested in me and it's Switzerland. He's trying to get me out of this country. She said, well, you've got to listen to what is going to happen. So I went, I met them in town, met them in London, and then they invited me to go across to Geneva to see the setup and everything like that. I came back. Terry Neal phoned me up and he said, have you signed? I said, no, I'm thinking about it. He said, well, you haven't got a lot to think about. I said, what do you mean? He said, if you don't sign for the Swiss club, you'll play the rest of your contract, which was 1.5 years. He said, you'll spend that 1.5 years in the reserves. I said, how can you say that? He said, well, take it or leave it. That's the situation. So I went to my wife again, came off the phone, went to my wife and said, he's told me that I'll spend the rest of my time in the reserves. She said, you've got to go and sign for the club. She gave me her blessing. She said, sign for the Swiss club. She said, I don't want you moping around this house talking about Terry Neal every day and being miserable. You've still got football in you, so let's see it. And I went across to Switzerland and had 2 fantastic years, scored a lot of goals out there, won cups, and then came back after 2 years. But I didn't want to leave Tottenham. The couple of days after I signed for the Swiss club, Terry Neal resigned. And I tried to stop the transfer. I went to the chairman's house in Wagon Road in Cockfosters, and I said to Mr. Whale, I said, Mr. Whale, could you please try and stop that transfer? Because Terry Neal's signed for Arsenal. He went to Arsenal straight away. So he tried and came back to me and said, I'm sorry, Martin, I can't stop it. So that was me out of the club. And Terry Neal had decided to move on. And that's when Keith Birkinshaw took over. I would have loved to have stayed under Keith Birkinshaw. He was a different class manager. He was very successful. He proved it.
Yeah.
Unbelievable story. Look, we're running out of time now. Very, very quickly, we've got so many questions coming in from those of you at home. So I'm going to try and run through a couple now. Here's a non-football one. Paul Kramer. Where does your unusual middle name, Harcourt, originate from? Do you know where your middle name originates from?
Wow. That's a story in itself. That is, it is an unusual name, Harcourt. It comes from my German side of my family. My mother was German, and there was a Lord Harcourt who had a maid, and Lord Harcourt was an adventurer. He was a mountaineer.
Really?
And he was off on his mountain climb and everything, and unfortunately, he died while he was on the mountain. Something happened, and the maid was pregnant, and she said, I'm going to call my son Harcourt. And it came down through the family. That it was the maid who had the name, and then suddenly that name got transferred into my family. But it came down from a Lord Harcourt.
Wow. Well, I mean, who knew that? Well, we heard it here first. Pete Haynes has asked, when did you realise your ability to launch such a great long throw? Where did the long throw come from?
My big shoulders that I used to have. I've got 2 new shoulders now. They've both been replaced. And I used to throw a cricket ball and everything. I used to throw the javelin at school, the discus. I've got very long arms, and I found it very easy to. A lot of people thought I dislocated my shoulders when I did a throw-in, but no, I just found it natural to throw a ball in from the side. I never took a run up. I used to just take one step, if anything, and hurl the ball in. And thank goodness we had Alan Gilseen on the other end, or Mike England, and we scored goals from it.
Amazing. There we are. Well, look, we've kind of run over time. Just to let you know at home, I've just been told, excuse me, the link on this show will stay up for a couple of days. So if you had to go a bit earlier or you're watching back, this stays up for a couple of days. Thank you so much for everyone who's joined us at home or wherever you are around the world. Ladies and gentlemen, show your appreciations, although we can't hear you. Martin Chivers. Thank you so much, Martin. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you, Theo. Thank you, Martin. We'll be back normally with our normal podcast next Tuesday. Become a Spurs Show season ticket holder. Hopefully do more of these events. Join us at patreon.com as well. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for the amazing PSL technology who have put this together. Quite incredible. And the wonderful James in the sound booth, who I just checked my phone, has been giving me dog's abuse throughout. I'm only joking. He's been lovely. We run over. So until the next time, thank you so much. Have a great weekend. Come on, you Spurs.